Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Wine Around the World with the amazing Steve Wilson, who knows everything about every wine that was ever made. And it's great to see you all here today. My understanding is we're going to hear about turkey-worthy wine today. So I think that's great for November. And before we start, I always like to thank Capital Federal that keeps the lights on and the zooming, and also Sharon and David Katzman, who's very kind and wonderful fund that they've set up for the library helps us keep coming after you with retroactive events and keeps these things coming. So I'm going to just let Steve get started and tell us a little bit about these interesting wines that you chose.
Well, we're gonna start real quick and talk about last month. Somebody requested we talk a little bit about service and storage and
Yes,
and things like that. So we'll start with that, and then we'll kind of wrap up with a couple wines that will definitely do well on the turkey table.
perfect.
So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully.
Oh, it'll work. There
There we
you are again. Okay. I see you. I don't see a
go.
screen, but up. I see words that you started. There you go.
All right.
Perfect.
And do we have
Wow.
good video?
Looking great.
All right, excellent. So
Thank you.
this is actually a slide deck that I created for a class that I do on just wine appreciation, but we'll cover a couple things just in the prep area. We call this the pregame. So this
Okay.
involves, getting your glassware and wines at temperature, opened and at temperature and things like that. So we'll just kind of go through the kind of the basics of setting up the getting again the pregame. So
Okay.
glassware. Obviously, glassware is important. Um, what makes a good glass? The most important factor is that it be clean, no smells, particularly with bubbles, because if you have a glass where you know a champagne flute and you're pouring that wine into the flute. Unfortunately, what happens is if there's residue on the inside of the glass, the bubbles immediately release. They don't collect and form the way they do. Because generally, champagne bubbles will find imperfections in the glass, and that's where they will collect and then form these nice string of pearls off the sides. So if a glass is clean, your sparkling, I mean, is not clean, rather, your sparkling wine will go flat pretty quickly. But most importantly, you just don't want any ambient smells. So, sometimes cabinets where it's stored will have a smell. Sometimes even wiping it out. I will always use tea towels that have not been washed with fabric softener, and then polish them out because paper even has sort of a smell. You don't really need to be that ruthless about it, but just know that the cleaner the glass is, the better the presentation of the wine. Um, Clear. It used to be that we had cut colored crystal glasses. And that was really in part because the techniques for clarifying wine really hadn't perfected.
Mhm.
I mean, we liked clarified wine, but we didn't go out of our way to do it. And so um, we would put it into a colored glass, particularly champagne. Champagne was disgusting until they figured out ways of removing the sediment from the yeast that create the bubbles, that we wanted it in a glass we couldn't see through. But today we do. We want to be able to see the color because the wine will tell you. I mean, the color of the wine will tell you a lot. Tell you the age, might tell you the varietal. But oftentimes the color of that wine is just absolutely brilliant. Thin rimmed. You really want the wine to hit at the tip of your tongue and kind of wash over. You don't want a thicker rimmed glass, makes it harder to catch it before it basically goes down the gullet. So thin rim is preferred. Capable of holding at least 10 ounces. This is really because a 5-ounce pour of wine is a full pour. So you want to be able to hold, that much wine in your glass, really whip it around and not have it spray the carpet. And so 10 ounces is a good size. Certainly larger you can do, but I think 10, I mean, certainly, and we'll talk more about kind of the sexiness of glassware. There is justification for beautiful glassware, but really,
How
as
many
far
people?
as wine, being enjoying your wine experience, 10 ounces plus is ideal. A stem is nice only because it keeps the fingerprints off the glass, allows you to see it. It doesn't heat up the wine, but I'm a big fan of stemless. I've broken countless glasses. I've got scars on my hands from polishing glasses where the stem snapped. So stemless is wonderful too. It just, again, different, provided that it meets all the requirements above. It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
So there's a company called Riedel. It's an Austrian company. They make beautiful glasses. I use a lot of them. But Riedel has made as their marketing campaign kind of the idea that you need a different glass for different kinds of wine, different ages of wine, different grape varietals. And the reality is you don't. You do in the sense that a beautiful glass enhances the presentation. I mean, for the same reason that, if you had a Michelin starred meal served on a paper plate, it would still be that Michelin starred meal. You just wouldn't be that jazzed. But you put it on a Bernardaud china plate, and it's like a piece of art. So the glassware is really just to show off the wine, but does it have the ability to enhance flavor, aromas if you can't see it? Again, provided that it's a 10-ounce glass with a thin rim and clean. No, and science has actually shown that. They've done a lot of controlled studies that say that the glassware only matters if you can see it. So with that in mind, pick a glass that you like. The nicer glasses make the table look nicer, but it really is just for the visual experience of seeing the wine in this glass. So corkscrews. Obviously, we have to open the bottle. There are a lot of different corkscrews, and in front of you got a fair amount of kind of. I mean, this is a good representation of what's out there. So at the top left, you've got the classic butterfly corkscrew. Um, I am not a fan of these only because 3 out of 5 times that worm, and the worm is the spiral metal piece that pierces the cork. Um, I would say 3 to 4 out of 5 times that metal worm is going to just absolutely destroy the cork and leave crumbles in it. It's hard to. Certainly the better versions of those are good, but that is one of my least favorite corkscrews. Actually, my all-time favorite corkscrew is the one down in the bottom center. It's a corkscrew from Spain. The company is called Pull Tap, and it has a 5 spiral worm, Teflon coated, with a hinge that it basically allows for a two-part opening. You kind of get it going on one little angle, and then you move the device, and it continues opening. These things are about $10. I've had pull tap corkscrews. That's the waiter's helper. But I've had pull tab corkscrews for 20 some years, and best value you can buy, and really, really nice quality. Um, the other things, the electric corkscrew I like, but I've learned of a problem it has, and I've had this problem present itself a couple times. Um, so the electric device removes the cork, and sometimes it doesn't spit it out. And I have had people bring in bottles of wine that they say the cork fell into the bottle. And that's a really hard thing to have happen. It's really, really, really hard. And we assume, well, okay, it did. So we swap out the bottle, and we have certain tools to remove corks. And lo and behold, it's a cork from a different bottle of wine. So what had happened is a cork had remained in that electric corkscrew and then been pushed into the bottle of wine when it was attempting to remove the cork. So provided that there is no cork already in that device, it works. But I've had people come back and swear that no, they just tried to open the bottle and yeah, it's like, well, this wine, the cork that you have here came from one continent, and the wine you have came from another. So this kind of reveals itself here. Uh,
Mystery. Is that the one here on the next to the
on the
one
lower
below?
right. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It basically it sends the worm down into the top and then reverses and pulls it out. And like I said, if there's already, it has a fairly large worm in it because it has to go down further. So it's more than, I would assume it's more than 5 spirals. So it has the ability to hold on to another cork if that cork just keeps spiraling up the worm. But yeah, funny stuff. The last thing is, and this is um, so the device in the on the middle top is a device called an OSSO. And the OSSO is a tool used for getting older corks out of a bottle. So if you put a worm into an old cork, it may just pull right out. And so the OSSO sends these very, very slender metal blades down the side, prongs down the side of the cork, and removes it that way. Now, the most masterful thing for removing old corks is in the lower left corner, the Durand, because that's a combination of a wine key and an osso, made out of surgical steel. Was designed by a surgeon, and that will remove a cork that has decades and decades and decades of life on it without damaging the cork at all. It's an amazing device. They are pricey. I think they're about $150 for a Durand, but they remove the cork. If it's an old cork, you don't have a lot of options. So that's a wonderful device. If you're into old wine, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
All right. So wine storage. Um, Basically, you can have something like this. You can have very elaborate custom millwork, display cabinets, under counter lighting, chandeliers, all of this stuff, and that is, what this is really is a reflection of kind of the old world, mostly French wine cellars, and beautiful place to hang out and drink wine and whatnot, but there is a significant cost associated with all of. I mean, it looks like they even have a ceiling, a bricked ceiling. So yeah, they've got some money in this room, but they probably have some money in that wine, so it probably makes sense. Um, but certainly don't need that. You can get small refrigerators that are, you really want something that maintains, it's a wine refrigerator does an interesting thing. It basically it stays warmer than a refrigerator, but cooler than an air conditioner. So it wants to keep it cool but not strip out all the humidity. And so it kind of has to work against itself. But a wine fridge that holds 50 or 100 bottles, can tuck in your kitchen. The one place, well, or you can actually just take it to a dark, low-level spot. If you have a concrete floor, that's fantastic. But as you can see, that too technically is a wine cellar,
Mhm.
and where they store their vacuum cleaner hose.
That looks
Now,
like my basement.
Um, so let's talk about what wine really was. What's wine's perfect Sunday? Well, certainly away from light. Light is damaging. It ultraviolet light degrades wine. It likes to stay away from heat, and it really prefers, maybe 52, 55, up to maybe 65, or even up to 70. I mean, the ideal temperature is probably around 58. But if you're certainly in a dark, cool spot, a basement is probably going to stay in that 65 to 70 degree range. Um, it's not a fan of dryness. That cork is breathing, and so it definitely needs humidity to keep it from just drying out. And because when it dries out, then that air just comes straight in, and the bottle starts to degrade. So wine cellars, I mean, the reason that often many of them look like caves is just that, in a cave you have a fairly high relative humidity, usually in that 65 to 70% range. So a wine cellar is really just trying to mimic the conditions of a cave for storage. If a good cellar can keep wine and safe and very, very drinkable for decades.
Hmm.
Away from vibrations and away from strong odors. And I love this picture. I pulled it from a high-end contractor out of state, but unfortunately, what this contractor knows about wine is not much, because pretty much everything we just said wine hates. You've got, looks like, a warming oven, a convection oven, a microwave, a refrigerator, and a freezer that are venting. So if that wine has ever seen anything below 80 degrees, I would be stunned. So
Mhm.
whatever's up there probably is going to start dripping down the side. Um, all right. I think, oh, serving temperature. So serving temps. Um, Oftentimes we drink our white wines too cold and our red wines too warm. So, when things are too cold, you don't really taste much. And when they're too warm, they're kind of boozy and pruny.
Mhm.
So, 42 to 50 degrees for bubbles. Really, I prefer bubbles as cold as I can get them, because the colder the bottle is, the longer those bubbles will stay suspended in the liquid. For whites and rosés, little cooler, I mean, little warmer rather than refrigerator temp. Wine often gets closed up when it's at that degree, that temperature. So 45 to 55, depending on the grape and the wine style. And you'll know if it's not showing much, just let it warm up. Um, Full-bodied whites and light-bodied reds. So as we're getting in the fuller style of whites, you do want a little more temperature. They don't drink as well when they're very, very cold. Similarly, light-bodied reds don't want to be warm. They do want to be a little chillier. Medium-bodied reds to full-bodied, really mid 50s to mid 60s. That is where you're going to notice the most fruit. The alcohol will kind of stay under the rug, and you'll really kind of get a full sense of what that wine is like. I mean, most wine cellars are 52 to 55 degrees, which kind of means, 58 is you've gotten it out of the cellar, you've taken it to your table, you've poured it, and now it's about 58, 59 degrees, and that really is a perfect temperature for those full-bodied reds. And then port, because it is sweet, you do want it colder. I would say pull it out, take that port bottle, put it in the fridge, pull it out for maybe 15 minutes, and then try it, and it's probably going to be pretty nice at that temperature.
Okay.
All right, lastly, aeration versus decanting. So they're really doing two different things. Aeration is just simply exposing the wine to oxygen, and this is important because aromas and flavors volatilize. I mean, they need oxygen to volatilize and to make themselves present. So if getting that air, I mean, that's why having a glass that can allow you to swirl it around is nice. Now, there are a lot of ways of exposing wine to air. Certainly, pouring it into a large glass, giving a little spin, and setting it down. That's already starting to do that. Um, if you know the bottle is not old, where I mean by that I mean it might have sediment. You know, you can pour off a little. We'll do this. It seems kind of aggressive, but we'll pour off a little bit, cork the bottle back up, and shake the wine vigorously, and that gets air into the into the wine. So you'll know when it starts to open up. But that's aeration. They're expensive aerators, really, really, really. I've not there have been a lot of devices that have said that claim to do certain things that I simply haven't noticed. I don't. They don't show up in the industry a lot. I mean, we're just lazy, but aeration, you know, that's what a good glass is for. It saves you from having to clean up two things. But decanting is also part of aeration, but decanting is really a different there's a different objective. Decanting is removing sediment as it aerates. So if you have an older bottle of wine or a bottle that has a lot of pigment, as that wine ages, the dissolved solids of the wine create a molecular bond, and they get heavy, and they combined with tartaric acid, which is, you know, cream of tartar. It's an acid that's present in grapes. It crystallizes and it settles out at the bottom of the bottle. We don't really want to drink that because it's pretty gritty. It's not. I mean, it doesn't taste good and it doesn't feel good on the tongue. So really, we want to remove that. So when there's an old bottle, you know, you stand up the bottle on its end for a period of time, such that everything settles to the bottom. And then once that has settled out, you pour it through a mesh filter or cheesecloth into a larger vessel, and that's where, you know, usually you'll leave about maybe an ounce in the bottle where that sludge kind of stays. But you don't want it. I mean, it's sad that you have to give up an ounce of the wine, but you wanna leave that there. All of the elegance of that aged wine shows once that sediment's been removed. So that's decanting, and then once that sediment is removed, then you can, you know, aerate the wine and help it volatilize and open up a little more.
How old are some of these wines that have to be decanted?
So I would kind of, it really is a case by case thing. I mean, certainly I've had bottles that are 10 years old that show no sediment, and I've had bottles that are 8 years old that do. Um,
Okay.
it really, I mean, you can kind of move the bottle around and see whether you notice residue on the neck of the bottle. You know, I mean, you kind of, if you're drinking, like, say, there's a varietal called Petit Syrah, and it has inky black color. Well, when Petit ages, it really throws sediment. Syrah does as well, and so you want to remove that sediment because it's bitter, it's gritty, and that's in this slide. That's kind of what it looks like. That's what shows up in your glass, and it's like I said,
Ugh.
it's just a mixture of great, you know, basically reformulated grape skins and crystallized tartaric acid. But definitely stuff you want to keep out of your glass if possible.
That's pretty nasty looking.
Yeah, yeah. So here's some example of decanters. I would say probably the ones that I use the most are the one up at the top right, and that's that slender one second from the left on the bottom. Those two, I like the one at the top because it allows the wine to really flood out and develop a lot of airspace. And but you know, at the end of the day, a mason jar does this. I mean, an iced tea pitcher. There are a lot of things you can use. This company, Riedel, again, like, you don't need that stuff to enjoy the wine, and it probably won't make it taste any better if this room is completely dark and you can't see. But if you can see, that looks really cool. Like, that is a Riedel decanter. It's about a $700 decanter, mouth blown crystal stem. I mean, it really, you go to certain restaurants, sometimes you order a nice bottle and they'll present it in something like this, but I don't know, it just makes me nervous to look at it because it's impossible to polish, and all you have to do is just nick it wrong with a glass or a ring or the side of a counter, and now you're can't really do much with half a decanter, unfortunately. But I think, yeah, that is. So I'm going to stop sharing and head back with y'all. Am I all back?
You're
All
back, and
right.
that was quite informative. I had
So
no idea about all of that and how it could get to go to ridiculous lengths sometimes, but
yes, well, and any questions? I mean, that was kind of a fire hose kind of discussion, but um, any questions about storage, glassware, opening, closing, anything like that?
yeah, please unmute yourself or put it in the chat box if you have a question or anything here to ask. Um,
And if not, we can just go. We can move on to turkey wines.
oh, yes. Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Yes, yes. So, the feasting month, we're here, we're in it.
Yes.
Thanksgiving is a wonderful time. I mean, I really this is my most favorite holiday ever. I mean, it's just eating and drinking. That's and being lethargic. Watching three movies and a football game, but sleeping at the same time. I mean, it's
Yes.
wonderful. Um,
It's
but
lovely.
having some wine with dinner is a nice thing, and it's a nice thing for a number of reasons. One, we've kind of evolved. Our Thanksgiving table is often pretty impressive these days. We have not just one favorite, but multiples, and so they all have to make an appearance. And they're really all over the board. I mean, you've got, things like, roast meat, baked ham, things with herbal notes, vegetal notes, like, green beans or, green bean casserole, earthy things, maybe some mushrooms, um, cornbread. I mean, things that have really, really deep flavors. And then when you're trying to counterpoint those rich flavors, one of the more common things is of course cranberry sauce. That provides a pop of acid and some nice fruit.
Mhm.
And we use, I mean, in the culinary world, we use acids a lot to lighten up and refresh and cleanse and kind of reset the palate. And so wine, with the turkey table as extensive as it is, and with as much variation. I mean, really a diverse profile. Um, having some wine that can help out with that is nice. So, what does that wine look like? White wines, probably my favorite white wines for Thanksgiving involve wines that have some nice fruit component. I mean, the fruit is definitely desirable. It pairs really, really well with all the flavors on the table. And oftentimes the fruit that you'll encounter are even, fall fruits.
Mhm.
So apples and pears.
Mhm.
And maybe you get some kind of stone fruits, but they're not, they too pair well with all the things on the table. And so you want something that's got some nice fruit. It's got some nice acidity, so it can wash off the richness of gravy, or rich stuffing, or something, mashed potatoes. Um, and then you want something also that maybe has a little more body, little more weight, just because you do have so many rich things.
Mhm.
So the wine that I picked today is a wine from Paso Robles, which is sort of equidistant between LA and San Francisco. And Paso has really been a pretty vibrant wine region in the last 15 or so years. And they've discovered they can grow a lot of really interesting grapes. Some of their most successful are grapes that originated in the Rhone Valley and in southern France. And Viognier is one of those grapes. Paso does a really nice job with Viognier. So this is a wine we've tasted other Viogniers before, but this is a wine that has, you get kind of apple, pear, maybe some honey, but it has that kind of that fall vibe, and a nice pop of acid. I mean, you can feel your mouth watering, and that's if you've had a lot of fatty food, that acid. What happens when you have a lot of fat, milk fat, particularly, it kind of shrink wraps your tongue.
Okay.
It paves over the sensitivity of your taste buds. So when you have something that is that counterpoint, that acidity that causes your mouth to water and remove that fattiness from the tongue, suddenly now things taste a little better.
Mhm.
So a nice glass of wine with turkey, really. I mean, it's something that, I mean, this Viognier is one that, I mean, you could have before dinner. It's a little richer. I mean, I'm an equal opportunist. I love Sauvignon Blanc. I love dry Riesling. One of my favorite things with turkey is a screaming high acidic dry Riesling from Germany. That I love that. I mean, it's like an underripe apple or peach or nectarine, and it it's so refreshing. And the turkey loves fruit. I mean, many roast meats do love fruit. I mean, we glaze the ham with pineapple, or stud it with pineapple, or citrus, oranges, and things like that. Turkey, cranberries, cherries, tart fruits. Just they just really make those flavors pop. And so you can find that in the wine, and it's nice to have a glass of wine with family, and it does kind of slow the evening down a little bit, which is nice. You should spend more
That is.
time relaxing and dining and
Mhm.
whatnot. But yeah, any questions on the Viognier, or any other questions just about turkey whites?
I know I spoke with my sister this morning. She lives in Chicago, and I said we're going to discuss wines, turkey table wines, and she said, "Oh, whites." And I said, "I don't know.
Well,
Totally
the nice thing is, Thanksgiving. I mean, the wines that go with I mean, pretty much everything goes. Well, let me back up. There are whites, there are reds, there are bubbles, there are rosés. I mean, you could even do some fortified wines. It would be more for dessert, with like pumpkin or pecan pie, um, but I mean, what you're looking for generally for the whites is acidity, medium bodied, even full bodied. Eh, I would probably do light to medium bodied. Full bodied might be too much with the richness of the food, but light to medium bodied, bright acidity, really nice fruit profile. Those are the kinds of things that really do well. And so you can, bubbles. You like sparkling wine, that's going to be wonderful. I mean, that those bubbles just kick the richness right off the tongue and reset your palate instantly. Rosés. You'll get fewer like apple pear flavors, but you'll get more like cherries, plums, berries, maybe even watermelon, but still refreshing citrus, still refreshing flavors for pairing up there. So really, I mean, there's a lot. The only thing that um, drinks, I would say, less well with turkey, with the standard turkey, would be Cabernet. And I know a lot of people, we sell an ocean of Cabernet during Thanksgiving. I know a lot of people love it. If Cabernet really is your jam, maybe don't go for the biggest, boldest, richest cab you can find, only because that those tannins get a little angry with the turkey. The tannin has the ability to kind of break down things, and a nice piece of steak is one thing, but turkey has a lighter texture, and sometimes the tannin in really tannic red wines and cab could be one of those. Not all, but that would be my only. That's my. I guess that would be my personal least favorite with turkey. But there's so many others that I mean, and the wine that we're going to taste, the red wine that we're going to taste today is a great example of that. But yeah, they're really. I mean, drink what you like, absolutely. Drink in moderation.
Of
What
course.
else? Drink lots of water. Yeah. But it is pace yourself and really, I mean, I also like because there is so much stuff on the table. Um, I will often open multiple bottles of wine, not really with the idea that I will kill every single bottle, but just because I want to see what that wine tastes like with
Mhm.
this particular casserole or this particular sauce or whatever. And I mean, it's it's a flavor parade, get out there, get it. But this is, I mean, there's, don't be afraid to pull some corks and just to kind of enjoy the day. It's good stuff.
Just quickly, what are some of your favorite Thanksgiving dishes that you always want to see on the table?
Um,
Just a minute.
it really is. I mean, we always have roast turkey, and there's always we got to find a farm that. I mean, there's the process of procuring the turkey. Fortunately, we live in an agricultural region, and those things are not impossible challenges.
No.
But turkey, ham. My wife makes spectacular mashed potatoes. I don't know exactly how it is that it's a yeah, I can't get the consistency and the lightness.
Mhm.
I think it involves like maybe some mascarpone, but anyway, just banging mashed potatoes. Pan gravy, stuffing, have to have the stuffing too. Um, Sweet potato casserole, broccoli salad. It's a my
Ooh,
aunt and uncle from well, northern Florida, southern Georgia had a famous broccoli salad that has been adopted.
that sounds
Yeah,
good.
no, it's a fairly lengthy thing. Yeah, rolls, and then
Cranberries.
have to have
Cranberries.
what's that?
Cranberries.
Oh, actually, yeah, no, my mom usually she will run cranberries through a meat grinder and make we when I growing up we had citrus grown in our backyard, so oranges were easy to find and were often added to all sorts of things. So yeah, cranberry orange relish, not the worst thing in the world.
No.
And then we have to have a couple pies, three, four, something like that, just for options.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, there's it really, I mean, the joy of Thanksgiving is, you kind of have things that you have been eating for a long time, and you don't have them every day, and they remind you of, your
Right.
past, your childhood, your family members. It's just, it's a nice time to revisit stuff kind of in that in the tradition of dining and feasting. So I'm, yeah, big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
Well, let's move on to, let me grab my red.
All
So
right.
so as far as reds for Thanksgiving, you really, in this case, you're still looking for some acidity. You still want some bright acid, because you still have the richness that you want to counterbalance. You still want fruit. So there are things that have wines that have more fruit and some that have less. I would steer for the more fruit, and that doesn't. When I say fruity, people often kind of associate that with sweetness or ripeness. That's not the case. Um, just the overwhelming presence of fresh fruit flavors. And
Okay.
actually, I take that back. Isn't even in this wine, not all the flavors are fresh. Um, some of them are more dried and stewed. But anyway, you want something that has some nice fruit. So probably my most favorite red with Thanksgiving would be Pinot Noir. And I mean, if I can pick anything, it'd probably be Pinot Noir from Burgundy. But Pinot has just this really, again, very versatile flavor profile, and a lot of the things that are on that turkey table like it. I mean, there are some. I mean, you can find Pinot Noir that even tastes like ground up cherries and cranberries. I mean, it tastes like cranberry relish, and so it's going to do the same thing. So I like. I mean, Pinot has bright cherry fruits, strawberries, other stone fruits, sometimes like peach, apricot. But then it can capture earthiness and kind of woodiness. So, like if you have maybe you smoke your turkey, so the smokiness. I mean the flavors of Pinot often sometimes you can even smell bacon fat in Pinot, and it really, I mean, cherries and bacon, strawberries and bacon, really, they're a wonderful pairing. And so, when you have that complexity just in the wine, and you're adding it to other flavors, now you're tasting even more, and bacon, just anytime you can throw bacon on the train, that's a good thing. Um, but so yeah, Pinot is one of my favorites. But there are other lighter, juicier, light and juicy reds. Sangiovese, the Chianti grape, does really nice things. Bright cherries and sometimes little tobacco and leather. I mean, it just it brings out the roastiness of the bird. Or again, similarly, if it's got some wood smoke on it, that draws that out and it complements it. Um, and But the wine that we're going to taste today is from Italy, from the region of Verona, and um, it's a wine from a fairly old producer, a producer called Massi, and they're based. I think they're right near Lake Garda, and in the '60s, Massi created this wine using a new style of wine. So, in the region of Corvino, there is a style of wine where the grapes, they're usually three: a grape called Corvina, a grape called Molinara, and a grape called Rondinella. And those grapes get harvested at different times, but when they're ripe, and then they're placed on straw mats and they're allowed to air dry in the mountain air, and it raisinates them, so it concentrates the flavor. Well, Masi in the '60s came up with this wine, this Campofiorin. It's the style is called Ripasso, but what they'll do is instead of raisinating, instead of dehydrating or drying out, not dehydrating, but instead of partially drying out all of the grapes, they only do half of them, and then the remaining of the juice is fresh juice. So they'll take fresh juice and blend it in with these raisinated wines. So you get the brightness of the acidity from the fresh fruit and from the fresh juice, and then you get more savory notes like dry, um, prune, plum, dried cherry, sometimes leather, sometimes kind of some coffee notes. But you get some more depth to it. It kind of adds in like a subwoofer on the speaker system, by adding those partially dried grapes.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is So what I love about this wine, I mean, it's a Ripasso is a cool thing. I mean, there are a lot of wineries now making Ripasso wine, but it it has this really nice bright plum and cherry note. Um, it you know there's a little bit of savory plum, like if you took red plums and you roasted them in the oven. So there's a little bit of a savoriness on that, but with turkey, with ham, it doesn't have too much tan. I mean, it has enough tannin to stand up, but it's not so much that it's gonna start chewing at the meat and kind of dry your mouth out as you're trying to refresh it.
Mhm.
But love some fattiness. Just a really really nice counterpoint to kind of the typical turkey table. But any thoughts on the Verona, on the Campofiore?
Yeah, I'd like to hear somebody who's tasting it, what you think of it. I I know my knowledge is growing. I'm so grateful to listen to Steve every month because I'm learning so much. But the thing was, red goes with beef and white goes with fish and birds, and
And I mean that honestly, that rule works more than it doesn't, to be
yeah,
honest. It I mean, the thing is, the rule was sort of created at a time before we had fusion cuisine. I mean, these
yeah,
days we have influences. I mean, historically, there were two influences. There were the French and the Italians, and everything else kind of translated through that. But well, what do you do if you're in Thailand? I mean, there's some great food there, but it definitely is not French or Italian.
yeah,
And so it really it really we're in an era where we've got just really cool opportunities to taste. And the wines that, I mean, we because we can get wine from all over the world, from multiple,
yeah,
literally thousands of places. And they're all, if they're doing it right, they should at least have some differences, but finding the ones that have really kind of unique qualities and beautiful qualities. I mean, that's fun. And there's really, I mean, because we have so many different things on the table today, it's really, really hard to make hard and fast rules anymore. It
yeah.
just, like I said, I mean, yeah, red meat definitely does typically favor red wine. And it really is because it has more tannin, and that tannin will deal with the fattiness of the meat,
Mhm.
and will stand up to it. I mean, beef is, when we think about light, medium, and heavy foods, beef is fairly heavy. Turkey might be right in the middle. It's not, certainly not like poached whitefish.
No.
Um, but uh, but no, I mean, it really, because there's so much that we can eat these days. It's always fun to see, what works, what doesn't work. I mean, I've come across some really weird pairings, and I'm happy that I know them. Yeah.
You mentioned bubbles. Would there be a bubbly wine? I kind of like bubbles. They're festive.
Yeah, no,
Bubbly wine that would go well with a turkey dinner or
almost certainly. I mean, I think something that would be made in kind of the traditional style of champagne. I mean, it could be champagne, but doesn't have to be. Just made in that style. So the grapes would be, well, they could be partially Chardonnay and partially two other grapes, Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier. I'm a big fan of what's called Blanc de Blanc. A white wine, a white sparkling wine made exclusively with a white varietal. In most of the cases, it's Chardonnay.
Mhm.
Um, So that you're getting, I mean, a nice Blanc de Blanc, you got super crunchy green apple, crisp pear, citrus, maybe a little creaminess. I usually like them a little edgier, and I love high acid wines. I don't know why, but I just really do. Sour Patch Kids and Shock Tarts were always my
Yeah,
favorite.
I like that too.
Yeah. But the having that brightness really is that's kind of what brings it around.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
still my favorite is after the turkey dinner and things are kind of put away and the last friends are still hanging out. I still go. We always enjoyed a little bottle of ice wine. And
Yeah, yeah.
last last time we asked about it, you said it was really hard to make just because of the weather. So I
Mhm.
don't.
Yeah, it's so yeah, late harvest wines in general are harder to come by, only because historically a really good dessert wine meant that the harvest had gone on perfectly. So the grapes, they ripened, and then, in the case of ice wine, they ripened, they did not rot or develop, there's no mold on them. They just froze. I mean, they were perfectly ripe by the time the first natural frost hit. And oftentimes they pick those things in the middle of the night because they need to make sure that they're frozen solid when when they go to the winery, and they'll be crushed while they're still frozen, and the water remains kind of intact with the rest of the goopiness of the grape, and just the sweet nectar gets bled out, and then that's fermented. The problem is, the difference between the time those grapes are ripe and the time the first frost hits has gotten too far. So they are molding, they are rotting, the birds are getting to them. They're getting overripe. They're not, so it has gotten harder to get that to that point.
You
But
mentioned. Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I said you mentioned late harvest. Are there other wines that you consider late harvest?
Yeah. So I mean, really, late harvest just means they had a higher sugar content at picking than they would if they were making a still wine. And so the late harvest, I mean, a lot of producers will actually do late harvest wine. I would assume in part it's because in the process of harvesting, they discovered that there were some blocks in the vineyard that got a little too ripe, and now they have too much sugar in them, but they're perfect for dessert style wine. So they will get then turned into that. So they're definitely, if it's not, I mean, uh, ice wine is very much defined by the fact that it has to be frozen, and that's kind of the bugaboo. But if it just is, a grape that achieved higher ripeness levels during, before it froze, then there is a lot of nice dessert wine, and I agree. I think, I mean, and there actually, I will also say there are also some cheats. Some producers, just in the love of dessert wine, are harvesting grapes, again at that higher ripeness level, that higher Brix level, and then taking them to a commercial blast freezer and artificially freezing them. And I think I'm all right with that. I mean, it's the nice thing is I probably won't have to pay. I mean, ice wine these days for a half bottle, even a half of a half bottle, a 187, 187 milliliters of ice wine could run you 40 or $50. And I mean, now granted, it's a wine that's so concentrated, you don't need much to get this flavor explosion. But yeah, I mean, for somebody, if somebody was taking really good fruit that was ripe and taking it to a commercial blast freezer and artificially freezing it, I don't know if I care, provided I can get it for much less than the natural stuff. I mean, they wouldn't have to pick in the middle of the night if that were the case. They could just wait until wait until daybreak. But but no, I those the sweet wines. I mean, sometimes you can get wines that have developed what's called botrytis, where it's a mold that kind of leaves a clover honey flavor. Those are wonderful. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things again on that dessert table. I mean, pecan pie, pumpkin pie, fruit pies. Those all have, a very compatible flavor profile with many of the dessert wines. There are some wines that will be more dried fruit, some will be more fresh fruit, some will, even have flavors that kind of reflect baking spice. So those wines are really, I mean, they're very compatible with turkey wine. So regardless of, I think maybe saving the true ice wine for a special occasion. Everyone, when that bottle makes itself available, and finding some other not cheats, but Canada and Washington are capable of doing some nice dessert wines at pretty decent prices. Well, provided Canada will sell them to us. I don't know if they do that anymore, but anyway. Um, yeah. So no, I love. I mean, Vinsanto is an Italian wine that it's more kind of nutty, pecany, raisiny, but that's a late harvest wine, and it is. Vinsanto's, that would be another thing to maybe consider, because that does really really well. Typically Vinsanto would be had with a little piece of biscotti and or the end of a meal, and but it does very well with all the flavors of the turkey table.
Wow. That's amazing, Steve. Wow. And we're about out of time, but thank you so much. Wow, you've given a lot of information, a lot of places, a lot of things to try. I've got to confess, I've never heard of ice wine before, so that's
Well,
pretty
it is
exciting.
it is sad that it has become such a rarity anymore, but
Uh,
yeah, it is. It's a style of wine that is, I mean, in its authentic form is partly it's so expensive simply because it's so labor intensive. I
I
mean,
should
so
think
many,
so. Yeah, yeah, go
yeah,
out in the middle of the night and pick the
in the middle of
frozen.
the night, and probably even in Germany they may even be tethered in because the hills are that steep. So
Yeah, well,
not fun.
no, it's not fun, but it makes a fantastic story and a fantastic wine to drink. Gosh, thank you so much. I love Thanksgiving too. I think it's a lovely feast. It's just about being together and being grateful. So
Yep.
I'm really grateful for all that you've told us about. I've taken notes. So
Beautiful.
I'm going to go out and try to find some of these wines. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. And thank you again, Steve. And
My
everyone, have a
pleasure.
fantastic Thanksgiving.
Likewise.
Enjoy your day, enjoy your family, be grateful, enjoy everything. And we'll see you next time. And I wonder what Christmas will bring. I guess we'll find out.
We'll have to think on that one.
All
Yeah.
right, I bet we will. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for being here, and we'll catch you next time. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for wine around the world.